Yeah, thank you all for joining. I know people are still hopping in, but we'll go ahead and get started. So I know some of you probably are not very familiar with us at all. So we're here with Digital Democracy Project. We are a nonpartisan nonprofit and all about building a voter-driven system of government, putting more power in the hands of the voters. So yeah, my name's Sadie, and I've been helping with a lot with outreach, and I've been leading the Florida chapter for Digital Democracy Project. So long term, we want to have a chapter in each state, and I'll be helping a lot with outreach until we get more along that way. And then Ramon, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Ramon Perez. I'm the executive director of Digital Democracy Project. I was a military officer for many years, and then for about 13 years, then I went into working in the AI machine learning business for the last 10 years. And then after September 11th, I kind of decided that I was very worried about what was happening and said, okay, what can I do personally to try to put some of my technology experience to work? And so that's where a lot of the idea of Digital Democracy Project came from. I got introduced to the CEO of Votes, which is the mobile app that we use, a gentleman named Nimit Sani. I'm not sure if he's been able to join us tonight, but I just thought what they were doing was
Yeah,
brilliant. Is Nimit on there? Hey, Nimit.
just joined. Sorry.
Yes. Thank you for joining. The genius behind the mobile voting app that we use. And once I saw what Nimit was doing and what his team had created, you can verify identity, you can find somebody on the voter file, you can trust that nobody can hack and change votes because of the blockchain backend and all of the mobile authentication that he had done in the app itself, and being certified in several states to run elections. So we said, hey, why, if you can do all of these things, then why can't you let people have a say in their government all the time? Why do we have to wait every 4 years for an election to tell our government that we disagree or that we agree? Why can't we just create something like the Netflix of government, government on demand? So that's where the original idea came from back in 2021 when Nimit and I met each other. And then we started beta testing in 22 and went live for the Florida legislative session in 2023. We started with state level legislation because it's kind of a shorter legislative cycle, more manageable, 30 days to 60 days. So 2023, we tested that out on state level legislation. We introduced federal legislation in 24, but just for Floridians, because we get the voter file from Florida. So we were limited to just Floridians in 2024. And then as of this year, about 6 weeks ago, working with Nimit's team, we've been able to show technically how we can verify voter identity, check driver's licenses, passports against a voter file nationwide in all 50 states. So we started introducing federal legislation for everybody in the country to participate in and tell Congress how you feel about the different pieces of legislation that are being debated. So that's kind of a brief background on me and where we are as an organization.
All right, thank you. So I will go ahead and I'll show you guys, give an overview about Digital Democracy Project. We have an explainer video that'll give a helpful intro, and then I'll show you guys some of the resources on our website as we explain what we do. And if you guys have any questions, if you want to drop them in the chat, and then we'll leave plenty of time for questions towards the end. So after we go over the resources on the website, we'll show you guys, if you're not already in the app, we'll show you guys how to get in there, try to leave some time for that, and then have plenty of time at the end for questions, or if anyone has feedback or anything else they'd like to share, we want to definitely have time to hear from you all. So we'll start out with the explainer video on the website, and then yeah, the audio should be good, but let me know if you have any issues on your guys' end.
Ever wish you could tell your legislators exactly how to vote? Well, now you can. And it's right in the palm of your hands. Introducing the Digital Democracy Project, a mobile voting app and online tracking system, connecting you to the process, giving you the power. You vote on pending bills, on issues that affect us all, every day. telling legislators how you want them to vote. There's no party politics, no big money, and no special interests. We only compare what voters want to what legislators actually deliver, and everybody can see it. Your representatives, the media, everybody, all from your phone. Plus, it's absolutely free. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. You vote on the same bills as your representatives. We track it online in real time, a running tally. Then we take score. We add up every vote on every issue and we post it. You can see if they have voted with or against the majority. And come election time, now you know the score. It's powered by blockchain technology, keeping you secure. And with ID verification, it guarantees that all votes are real votes by real human voters. And don't worry, we never store, share, or monetize your data. And we never will. We're just putting the power where it belongs, right in your hands. So join us. We have the technology. You have the power. The Digital Democracy Project. This is what democracy looks like.
All right. And then, yeah, so as the video mentioned, the app, the Votes app we use is how individual voters add their votes in, and then everything gets relayed to the website. So I'll provide more info about the app after we go over the website. So this is all digitaldemocracyproject.org on the website. Anyone's able to access this at any time. And this is on the tally page. So this is where you can see the nationwide map. And from any of the bills over here, you can kind of see when we had posted them. And for each bill, if you click on it, you can see a summary of the bill and then the vote results. So for each particular state, you can see the overall, how many supported the bill, how many opposed the bill, and then the percentages. And then for the country overall, you can see the total numbers there as well. And then there's also additional links that are really helpful. So the Open States plural link that we use, that'll provide more more info, more context about the bill. So you can see like the status, you can see who sponsored it, any co-sponsors, and then if it's been voted on, you can see the breakdown of how each legislator voted on it as well. And then you can also pull up the full text of the bill. And then the third link, you can see the Kialo. So we partnered with them and we provide this discussion. It's basically a discussion board where you can read pros and cons, get more info, context about the bill. And then you guys can also add in, if you have more pros or cons you want to add in that other voters can see, you can definitely do that. And then, yeah, so we'll try to touch through some of these bills. So yeah, the SAVE Act was another one that got a lot of attention. And then just quickly touch on some of these before we move on. So yeah, the Deterrent Act was another one, amending the Higher Education Act. And yeah, there's a lot of them in here. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys what it looks like and how you'll be able to navigate so you can check out more about them. And yeah, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act got a lot of attention. And for those that aren't familiar, that was the big reconciliation bill that moved through that included changes to the taxes and cutting Medicaid and SNAP. So those are the vote results for bills like that one. And then one of the releasing the Epstein files was one that got a lot of attention. Sanctioning Russia, Rescissions Act. And yeah, so there's a lot of bills in here. And on this page too, this is where we're tracking bills ahead of time so that voters get a chance to weigh in first. And then legislators can have this input from their voters to take into consideration when they decide how to vote. And then also, this is where the more voters that are weighing in, the more influence voters can have. So the more voters, the more legislators will pay attention, the better we can represent what voters overall want. So yeah, our main focus right now is definitely scaling up, getting more voters staying informed and engaged in what's going on, compiling more input for legislators, and giving voters more power in the legislative process. So this is kind of before the bill gets voted on. This is kind of where you can see what the voters want. And then on the scorecard page, this is where we're working to update these to where it'll have some more features built in, and then also to where we'll have these for every member of Congress and every US Senator, hopefully before the midterms. So another reason why we want to get a lot of voters weighing in, because on the scorecards for each of the legislators, so you can see the list of the bills over here. And then the first column shows if the voters overall supported or opposed the bill. If the majority opposed, it's a thumbs down. Thumbs up if they supported. And then the middle column is how the legislator actually voted on the bill on the floor. So you can go through and see their voting record. And so the scorecards were comparing what the voters wanted to how the legislators are voting. And then the third column just illustrates if the legislators' vote matched how the voters voted, they get a thumbs up. If it didn't match, they get a thumbs down. And then that proportion of how often they're matching what their voters wanted is where the score comes from. So yeah, they were, this is one of the higher scorecards. So 89% of the time, this legislator was matching what his voters wanted. And then you'll see some gray bubbles here. That's usually either if the bill didn't come up for a vote or if the legislator abstained. And then another helpful feature, so we'll be building this out for the federal bills. So I'll just show you guys what we're working towards. But on this bills view, that's kind of where you can go back and you can search for particular bills. You can sort by different topics or categories. And then you can see the previous bills we've carried at the state level for different years and the federal level. And then on this page too, this is where you can see the overview for each bill. So it'll have the summary, the links, the bill text, the pros and cons. And then another new feature that we're building out and working on adding for each of the bills. So you can see more context about what a yes vote means and like why organizations support or oppose different bills. And then we're working on to where we'll be able to display how organizations, if they support or oppose, if they've taken a stance on bills. So that'll be in here too to provide some extra context. And then, yeah, so the map right here is for Florida for now. So that'll be the nationwide map when we build that out. And then the scorecards right here will compare how the legislator voted compared to their particular district, the voters in their district. And then you can see the Senate. And yeah, something else I forgot to mention here too. You can you can change the overlay by the state house or yeah, congressional districts. And then there is a feature here too that we're calling it BillBot, so you can ask different questions about the bills, kind of get more context. If you have a particular question, it'll provide you an answer. And then, yeah, another thing I wanted to mention too, back on the tally map. So you can also zoom in on a particular state. That reminded me. So if you select the state, you can see the breakdown for each congressional district within the state too. So you can do that for all 50 states. And then that's most of the resources on our website. So yeah, we'll be working on getting enough votes to have those scorecards before the midterms and adding the federal bills to the bills view page. And then I also wanted to mention too, I know we have some candidates, legislators on the call, and those of you that are familiar with candidates and legislators. So we do also provide our resources to where candidates and legislators can endorse Digital Democracy Project. So with us being nonpartisan, they endorse wanting to use our technology as a way to hear from their voters. So former State Representative Tom Keene is on the call running for city council right now. So he was our first endorsed wanting to use our technology for that reason. So he kind of led the way with with endorsing our technology, getting a lot of other candidates and legislators following along. And so, yeah, all these are mostly Florida. So we'll be updating. We've already had some in other states that have endorsed. So we'll be updating this website so you can see who's who kind of aligns with our mission and wants to use this technology to hear from their voters. And then another thing that we'll do for candidates that endorse, we do a lot of video interviews. So in addition to us providing a platform for voters to communicate to their legislators, we'll also provide it for candidates and legislators to communicate to their voters, kind of provide more background about why they're running and how this technology would be beneficial to them. And then, yeah, we have a lot of other helpful resources on here. So Nimit, the CEO of Votes, on the call, he did an interview and there's some coverage about votes. And then I'll also mention too, yeah, Ramon, our founder, did a TEDx talk and kind of talks more about his inspiration and background behind Digital Democracy Project. So if you haven't checked that out, I definitely recommend that. And yeah, and then if you have any candidates, legislators that you think would be interested, we do have a one-pager that'll kind of overview the details about that. And if you reach out to me, we'll drop our contact info before we hop off the call, then we can connect with them and meet with them one-on-one, tell them more about it. So yeah, candidates, legislators, that's another aspect of what we're doing, how we're spreading the word. And then something I'll quickly mention before we get into the how to download the app. So another helpful use of the technology, the Votes app that we use, we had hosted a digital convention. The first one was whenever Biden had dropped out of the presidential election or the race. So we hosted a digital convention for voters to get a chance to weigh in on who they preferred for his replacement to be. We did one around who the vice presidential nominee would be. And then more recently, we did one with the US senators in Florida when Marco Rubio was appointed to the Trump administration. So this is just using the mobile voting app technology for voters to experience ranked choice voting. They get to rank their preferences for who they want to fill that spot. So kind of a use more so along with elections. And then on the website, we are able to display the results. So the breakdown for how each district had voted, who they preferred. And then you can also see like how ranked choice voting works. You can see the tabulation and like who won overall. So yeah, for those that aren't familiar, you get to rank your preferences from most preferred, least preferred, and then it'll eliminate the one with the lowest votes and redistribute their votes to who that voter had chosen second. And then it makes sure that whoever wins gets over 50% support. And then it also kind of avoids candidates being so like attacking each other, kind of takes out some of the toxicity of our politics to where they're trying to also win over your second vote. And then you don't have to worry about your vote being wasted either. So this is something we plan on doing again for the next one we're considering to call it the citizens election. And that'll kind of go along with the 2026 election for the Florida election for governor, to where we'll be able to compare the results of the real election with plurality voting and closed primaries to using mobile voting, and kind of in an open primary way where anyone can go in and rank their preferences using ranked choice voting, and we'll get to compare the results. So I just wanted to mention that because that's something we'll probably be building on over time, and at the national scale too. We'll probably incorporate this in some way in the future. So yeah, that's most of the features on our website. I just wanted to touch on those. And
I
then
wonder if I could, sorry to interrupt, Sadie, but I think that the digital convention was somewhat inspired by Joe Biden dropping out of the presidential race, and then there wasn't enough time to run a full primary for Kamala Harris taking over. And so a lot of people were disappointed about not having a more democratic process in the convention. And we kind of said, okay, well, this technology could allow voters to participate, and we kind of prototyped that out. And then we did it for Marco Rubio becoming Secretary of State. And so I think there's something to that. It's just, we would really need to scale it up with loads and loads of voters so that we could actually get enough participation to make really interesting comparisons between a model of elections, a forward-looking model of elections versus our current system of elections, which tends to lean in on hyperpartisanship. Okay.
Yeah,
All you,
so yeah, more to come on that soon. As far as Florida, and then yeah, in the future, I'm sure we'll expand on that. And then for those that aren't already in the app, so as we mentioned, the app we use is Votes. It's VOATZ. So they're real mobile voting technology. They've been used in over 150 elections, certified in multiple states in the US. So we use them because they've already been tested out, and security is one of their top priorities. And we thought it was really important to verify that voters are registered voters. They are who they say they are, so that we know that the results we get are reliable. They can accurately, reliably reflect what the voters want. So it kind of protects from us having voters voting multiple times, any bots or bad actors trying to skew the results, making fake accounts or anything like that. So yeah, the app, you'll download the app, create your account, and this only takes about like a minute or two, and then you'll go through the verification process. So you'll use a photo ID, do a selfie scan, and so that'll get you verified. Once you get verified from the votes team, you'll be able to vote on all the bills that we've already carried this year. So there's about 50 or almost to 50 that you can vote on, and then about every couple weeks, we're posting a new set of bills. So you'll be able to vote on all of them. You just have to do this once. And yeah, we'll try to leave some time so that you guys can go through that process if you haven't already. And actually, I'll drop this link in the chat too. So you can go through the link if you'd like. And then it'll provide you this info on this page, kind of with some screenshots to help. But yeah, you can download the app directly on your phone, or if you're in the Google Play Store, and then it'll kind of walk you through the process. And if you guys have any questions, just let us know. We can answer those before the end of the call too. But yeah, I don't know if Ramon, if you wanted to add anything about the app while people are working on signing up.
I've been answering questions already in the chat. So perhaps Sadie, I could do a little recap of some of the questions that have been asked, if you
Yeah,
like.
for sure.
Okay, so we've had some really good questions so far. One of our voters from Tennessee, Victoria, was talking about the upcoming midterms and governor's race in Tennessee and wanting to know when we'd be able to support doing state level legislation in Tennessee. So we definitely, our goal is to be in all 50 states, for just like we're doing state level legislation in Florida, and now we're doing federal for all Americans. Our goal is to get state level legislation in all 50 states and have millions of voters telling their legislators at the state and federal level how they want them to vote. So that is our ambition. It's just a matter of how we roll it out. We're thinking in 2026, we'd like to have another 2 to 3 states in the system. We'd then in 2027 to try to add another 10 states, and then in 2028, basically all the remaining states till we get to 50. Part of it is that every state has little quirks in how the legislature does business, in how much data is available on bills, what they call things, their procedure. Even just going from Florida legislature to federal legislature, Charles, who's on the call, who's an amazing legislative policy analyst who works in Tallahassee for Representative Darrell Campbell's office, and really knows the ins and outs of how Florida legislature works. Is also the one who's tracking bills for the federal level and has had to educate our product team on all the weird ways that the U.S. Senate does business. I mean, it's totally different from the House. I mean, so there's a certain amount of stuff that we have to kind of code into the system to manage, so that we can track legislation, put things into the app at the appropriate timing, and record the votes correctly so they get matched up in these scorecards. That's part of the reason why it's not going to be an instantaneous process to get state level legislation in all 50 states, but that is our goal. So that was a long-winded answer, but thank you for the question, Victoria. We had another question from Ellie, who said, how are voters tracked so they vote only once for any bill? This is, Nimit could probably go into loads of details on how this works, but basically the blockchain the votes are recorded on a blockchain, which is considered an immutable ledger of the vote activity. And so each individual has a unique identifier, and each vote that gets put onto the blockchain has a unique identifier. So we protect the secret ballot in the sense that we can't see how Sadie voted on Bill X and Ramon voted on Bill Y. We don't know that. All we know is Sadie is a verified voter whose identity has been confirmed with an ID and is on the voter file, so we know which district that person is assigned to. And then she gets a unique cryptographic ID. Her vote gets encrypted, put onto the blockchain, and the same, my vote gets encrypted, put onto the blockchain, and then the tallies are pulled from the blockchain with just a total calculation of all the votes for or against a bill from a given congressional district. So we do allow people to go and change their vote. And so if you say, oh, I originally thought that bill was bad, but now I actually changed my mind, I think it's actually a good bill, you can go do that. Once every 24 hours, you can go and change your vote. What the system does is, because it's an immutable ledger, all votes are recorded for all time on that blockchain. It's not going to go back and change any votes. What it does is it puts a new record onto the system, and then the system says, okay, I see a new vote for that same bill. There's an old vote for that bill. So I'm going to refer to the new vote and disregard the old vote when I do these calculations. So that's how we guarantee that. This is real election software. It's being used in real elections in several states. And that is how the system is designed to make sure that nobody can vote twice, that every vote is verified, and that nobody can manipulate the votes, because the blockchain itself is reproduced across multiple independent organizations, including third-party auditors, to make sure that no one organization could have the crypto keys to make changes. Okay. Let's see. Another great question from Ellie about how are we getting the tool out to many segments of voters so the voting has more cross-representation of all voters. That is absolutely a really, really key and important goal, because we're not a polling organization where we're not saying we're trying to find 500 perfect people who are likely voters and then ask their opinions, or downweight some people or upweight some people based on their demographics or whether or not they are likely to vote, or whatever the statisticians are doing. Our goal is to scale. Our goal is to have millions of voters participating by making this free, by making it a public service, by doing this as a nonprofit. And our feeling is that you get enough people involved in the project and voting, you achieve that representative sample of the population, because it's such a huge amount of people participating. But obviously, we need communications and organizing with conservative groups, as well as progressive groups, as well as independent groups, third parties, etc. So a lot of our strategy is just we actually started off working with Republicans in Florida, and some of the earliest legislators to support us were Republican legislators. And we got a bipartisan appropriation in the state legislature. Representative Rita Harris, who was instrumental in that on the Democratic side, Senator Keith Perry on the Republican side, they worked really hard, got us an appropriation funded by the state of Florida, and then Governor DeSantis line item vetoed it. So there's just like the politics of the situation didn't work out in our favor, but there are Republicans who use this as are like, hey, this is a great tool for me to hear from my district, and they didn't have any particular qualms with it. It just depends on who you're talking to. I've had some Democrats who thought we were some sort of weird stalking horse for Ron DeSantis and thought we were trying to influence them to vote the way the governor wanted. And I've had Republicans who were like, we're a republic, not a democracy. I don't like the word democracy. It just depends on who you're talking to. So our goal is to provide a platform that is irrespective of the politics, and just present information to people and let people make up their own minds without all the bias and the filtering that you get from the media or from the politicians or from social media or other places. We're trying to just focus on the actual content of the bill itself. Hopefully I answered your question, Ellie Morris. Thank you. Had another great question. Patrick asked, how are the bill summaries written? So yeah, at the beginning, Charles, who's on the call, would read these things, hundreds of pages I mean, part of his job, he works on Capitol Hill, so I guess he enjoys doing it. But that's a lot of work, and it was tough to carry a lot of bills because it took a really long time to read all the legislation. Luckily, AI came along, and so we started using AI to help us read and summarize as a first cut, and then Charles takes a look at what the AI is generating and approves it before it goes into the app and goes out on our website, because sometimes AI says crazy things and we need to make sure it's correct. But as I think Sadie pointed out, we also use the Kialo tool to let voters have a say in the process as well. So you don't have to just take what the AI writes or what Charles writes. You can add your own pros and cons of what you like and don't like about the bill in there. And so we're continuing to tinker with how we can add additional tools to let voters have more say in driving the description of these bills, to get them as accurate as possible while introducing all the different range of opinions that people will have on this legislation. Okay, Sadie, I think I'll hand it back over to you, and then I'll keep fielding additional questions as they come in.
Okay, I think Patrick had some more questions like within that thread, if you have that pulled up. I see the question about, did you partner with any news analysis tools like Ground News to provide balanced coverage? And now my chat just moved. I'm not familiar with that tool. Yeah, in the media of the bill's subject matter. I'm not familiar with them, but yeah, if you guys do have recommendations for any orgs that you think that we should be reaching out to, or any resources that would be helpful for us to spread the word, definitely do let us know. And then, yeah, I see another question about the recording. So yeah, we're planning on sending it out to everyone who had registered. And then, yeah, we might make it more available than that too. But yeah, you'll definitely receive that if anyone else was wondering too. And I'm gonna pause too. If anyone else has a question, if we maybe missed it in the chat and we didn't get it answered, or if you have something you'd like to add, you should be able to come off mute if you want to ask any other questions that you have right now.
Let's see. Ellie had another thought about, yeah, the League of Women Voters. Ellie has been really important to us in Florida. They've been very supportive of this work and have introduced us to tons of other organizations. Sadie works with a bunch of different groups at this point, but certainly the League has been instrumental in helping us grow, because we don't spend money on marketing. You know, this is actually an all volunteer team here on this call. And we don't, you know, we what money we have, we get from small dollar donations through the website, and we spend that money on the software to keep the mobile app running, the website, the servers, you know, the data collection process, all that stuff. So we are truly grassroots in the sense that we rely on all these organizations to connect us to other people and their members to help us spread the word, because we don't spend money on advertising, things like that. Okay.
I know I saw another question. Again, yeah, if we're missing your question, you can redrop it in the chat or come off mute. But I know someone asked, for those of us who do not go by our legal name, can we hide that name after we verify in the Votes app? That is a pretty good question.
I
Yeah, I
think
know.
that'd be a question for Nimit. I'm not certain that technology, that capability exists, but Nimit, correct me if I'm wrong.
We can, yeah, if you don't want, once you're verified and you don't want your name to appear where you see hello voter on the screen currently, what I would suggest is send a request to the support team or support desk. You'll find the email in the app as well, and just give a couple of lines reason why you feel, and they can manually make that change. So if you do that,
Okay.
then that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Look at that. I learned something.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, my chat keeps moving. I had another question. Oh,
Let's
yeah,
see.
from Woody was the one I was looking at.
Go ahead.
have you ever thought about trying to account for the fact that some legislators are usually willing to vote with party leadership if the vote is close, but may cast a symbolic no if their vote isn't needed?
That's really interesting. I would say what I've observed, we had a conversation with a Republican legislator who I'll remain nameless for right now, who told us the opposite, that he voted, if you recall from 2022, the Don't Say Gay bill was very controversial, or it was dubbed the Don't Say Gay bill in the press, but it was considered an anti-trans, anti-LGBT type of bill, that's had a lot of wide-ranging effects in the schools because it's allowed parents to challenge the school over any book in the library that is even, remotely homosexual or gay in some way. So this legislator represents a district that is Republican, but represented a kind of a purple district that actually had a pretty large gay population, and voted against the Don't Say Gay bill and got primaried by his local party as a result, and barely won a primary election as a result of voting that against the Don't Say Gay bill, which the party wanted him to support. So there was a case where he broke from the party because he felt like he was doing right by his district. And he said, if I had had this technology at the time, I could have asked my district to vote on this bill. And I could have said, he knows his district well enough to know that they would have probably told him to vote no on that bill. But he could have said, I'll take the data to the House leadership and go, you can't make me vote for this bill because it's just too dangerous. My district doesn't want this, and I could get tossed out of my seat. So would you rather keep my vote, or would you rather lose my seat because you make me take this vote that is against my district? So I think that's an example where you could see a legislator who wants to break from the party, but needs more justification to do so other than his own instincts, who could use this technology to help with that. And that's that's what we're hoping for, right? We're hoping for more accountability to the district rather than to the party leadership or the House or Senate leadership.
Oh, sorry, and thank you so much for answering my question. And yeah, I guess just to follow up with that thread, I wonder, to what extent you think that your tool can be a way to somewhat decrease the effects of gerrymandering and the effects of, this could be down the line, Senate malapportionment, where, because obviously it's so difficult, to get a constitutional amendment. Like, I personally would love sometime in the future to see the Senate abolished, but that's that's extremely difficult to do via constitutional amendment. But just like moving towards a world where the expectation is that if your party got into power through gerrymandering, through malapportionment, there's more of an expectation that you at least defer to what your tool says, of people in your district, or at least defer to what's being said, I don't know, across I don't know, the country or what have you.
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. I know you've nailed it, Woody. I mean, that's basically the entire concept of what we're trying to do here. Is we say we have all this hyperpartisanship, not because Americans are fundamentally bad or all hate each other, but because we have an election system that is by design putting people into these little camps and then pitting them against one another. And over the course of time, through gerrymandering and the primary process, it's become less and less and less and less representative of the broad swath of people, and more representative of the most extreme wings of these two parties. And so a lot of what we are trying to accomplish here is saying, what if we cut out all the middlemen that stand between us and our government, like this broken election system, like the biased media system, like all the dark money in politics and all the lobbying groups and all the special interests and all that. And we just say, what do actual people believe? Because what you find is that this left and right dichotomy is an entirely artificial construct, simply because we have a two-party system. If we had a 5-party or a 7-party system, media and journalism would be designed around those camps instead of the 2 camps that we have, right? So we would be putting people into those buckets, and we would be drawing maps around 7 parties. So I mean, like, it sounds kind of crazy, but like, if you step back and understand why we're in the situation we're in, it's because we stopped governing for the mass of the middle, and we have been increasingly governing by the extreme wings. And so when you put policies in front of people and you just say, do you think this is the right move for your community, yes or no, what you find is that people who call themselves Republicans might also believe in healthcare for all, or people who call themselves Democrats might also believe in gun rights and the Second Amendment, or people who call themselves libertarians, for the most part, might also believe in a certain tax increase in certain situations, because human beings don't actually follow strict ideology in the way that they think. They tend to evaluate a specific problem, and in the context of their own lived experience and their own view of the world, and then come to a conclusion on that. And that's what we're hoping to get to with this design. And I think what I would propose makes Digital Democracy Project unique compared to all the other democracy reforms that exist, which we're a part of. Like, I run Rank My Vote Florida as well, which is focused on ranked choice voting. And I love ranked choice voting and I love open primaries. But one of the things that is a real challenge is that every time we try to introduce those reforms, we run right into the buzzsaw of the 2-party system, which consistently comes out against a lot of those reforms, because it was ranked choice voting in Washington, D.C. under the Democrats was just as much of a uphill battle with the Democrats in D.C. as ranked choice voting has been in Florida with the Republicans. So Digital Democracy Project doesn't need to ask the permission of legislators. We are going straight to the voters. And we obviously have some forward-thinking legislators like Commander Keen, who's on this call, who see the value in it for empowering voters. And we just need to find more people like him who can carry this into policy. I think somebody asked on about the Forward Party. There was a question in here. Yeah, wouldn't the Forward Party support your vision? Yes, I think so. I've spoken to Andrew Yang 3 times now. And every time we talk, he says, I love this idea. This is really great. The Forward Party should embrace this. And then it's a matter of, I'm working with Todd Hooper, the Florida Forward. He's the new head of the Florida Forward Party. So, they're introducing us to their candidates. We've had some libertarian candidates endorse us. I think on the page Sadie showed, we've had independent candidates endorse. We've had Democrats endorse. We've had some Republicans endorse. Like I said, they were the first before the governor came out against us. But so yeah, our goal is to be in front of every party, and certainly the Forward Party, given Andrew's leadership and his particular technology focused vision, it makes a lot of sense, right? But we're not necessarily trying to pick sides. We want everybody to use this.
And yeah, I wanted to uplift too. Yeah, Patrick mentioned about how he appreciates how this tool is a case study that shows a way how direct democracy could work. So yeah, we've heard us compare to that too. Yeah, that is a good way to apply this too. And
I'll expand on that, on Patrick's comment. We've been talking a lot with the Citizens Assembly folks. So if you're familiar with the Citizens Assembly movement, that's an idea where citizens craft their own legislation by basically grabbing a distributed group of people who are oftentimes chosen by random sortition, just like a jury pool, get them together to solve a specific problem. In Florida, we have a real problem with property insurance. And then they craft a solution to that problem, and then we're thinking, oh, how great would it be if we take that to one of the legislators who's endorsed Digital Democracy Project, then that legislator drafts it, puts it into the pipeline, and then we carry it in the app so voters can vote on a piece of legislation that citizens have crafted, and try to pressure legislators to pass a piece of legislation that citizens have crafted to try to bring the whole process end to end, right? Yeah, so I do, if you're interested in the Citizens Assembly movement, I manage the Slack channels for them. I can get you into some of those discussions as well. I think that's a great I think there's the demand is clear because people feel like our current system is fundamentally broken, but not everybody understands why it's broken. They just see the results being this constant screaming match between blue team and the red team. But there actually are really interesting solutions out there that can empower voters. And if we take this opportunity, instead of thinking, I know, look, there's a lot of doom scrolling and I'm just as guilty of this, but instead of constantly thinking that democracy in this country is dying and, oh my God, I need to move to France, we can instead say, wait, there actually are solutions out there and we could take this as an opportunity to really think about or reimagine what a 21st century vision for a voter-driven government actually looks like.
And then I wanted to pause too. If anyone in the Slack or in the chat, if you guys have already downloaded the app, if you want to drop in, if you're already in the app, and then if anyone has started the process to sign up, again, if you have any questions, just let us know. We can help you out. But yeah, we're working on getting as many voters as we can weighing in. As I mentioned, that's how we'll have more power as voters. And yeah, I wanted to uplift Yvette, Dr. Yes's comment too about helping to spread the word, inform those in her state. So we really appreciate people like Dr. Yes kind of spreading the word. And if you guys on this call, if you know any organizations, any other voters in your area, in your state that might be interested, we definitely appreciate your help spreading the word. And that's kind of been one of the most successful ways for us to expand over time. So yeah, please do let us know. And yeah, we'll drop our contact info in the chat before we hop off too. And Ramon, if you see any other questions you want to hop on, but I'm going to pull up this page too. Yeah, you can let me know if you have anything else you want to answer. But for those that, if you're already in the app, then this is kind of how it'll look. Your home screen will have the Digital Democracy Project logo, and you'll see the bills in there laid out for each set that we carried. And then also in the app, when you're voting on bills, just wanted to make you guys aware, you'll be able to see the Kialo under the info bubble, and you can see the pros and cons. The second no info bubble, you can see the open states link that we had showed on the tally page. And then the third one is where you can see the bills view page, and that's where you can also access the vote bot or bill bot, where you can ask questions about the legislation. So once you get in the app, once you get verified, that's how it should look. And then, yeah, definitely reach out to us if you're having any issues. And then, yeah, Ramon, if you want to take any questions or talk about like plans, feel free to.
Yes. All right. I had a good question here. I have the app. This is Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. I have the app. I've used it. Do I need to sign up on the website as well? No, you are automatically added to our newsletter when you download the app. So you will get alerts when we put new bills into the app. We will let you know, and we will send you a text message too with alerts. You're always able to hit stop or write stop if you don't want text alerts or unsubscribe from emails. But we do that to let you know which new bills we're loading into the app so that you can jump in and vote. Because Charles tracks the legislative calendar so that we know what's coming up for a vote, what's getting movement, what's getting a committee assignment, what's likely coming to a floor. So that's why we use those text alerts. Okay. Yes.
I was gonna mention too, I know I'd seen in the chat too, someone had asked if this was only for Florida or nationwide. So I just wanted to make sure everyone had seen that it is an option for any US voter in any state, I mean, regardless of where you are. If you're registered to vote in the US, this is an option for you to use to weigh in on federal bills. Yeah,
yes, and we will add additional state level legislation over time. But for right now, you can weigh in on Congress. Okay. And then, yeah, so chatting about what's on the screen here, our plans for the fall. The next big feature release will be the bill view pages for federal bills. So I think Sadie showed an example of one that looked how we track bills, and it's got the current votes on that given bill and all the legislators and how they voted on that bill. We've done that for state level legislation in Florida, and we will be doing that for federal legislation. We anticipate having that done by September 15th. So then you'll be able to track a single bill instead of just looking at the tally map of all the bills that we've got in there so far for Congress. So I think that is often requested, especially by organizations who care about a specific bill and want to promote that bill either on their website or in their newsletter, or they want to take the link to the bill and send it to a given legislator and say, this is how people are voting on this bill. This is the bill's popularity or unpopularity. So we'll be publishing those mid-September. Then for legislators' scorecards, we will start producing those for Congress. I'm imagining the first quarter of next year for that. We do want to have a fair amount of voting already taking place in the app before we start producing these scorecards for Congress, because we want, a decent amount of votes cast. So that's why we need all of you guys to vote often, vote on every bill, so that we've got good data. Then when we're creating these scorecards for legislators, there's some data behind it, and that's where we really need to get the scale. Now, people have asked us, okay, if you only have right now we have about almost 24,000 people enrolled in Digital Democracy Project. There have been almost 100,000 votes cast on about 420 something bills to date. So there have been a lot of votes cast by a lot of people. But for a specific bill, you might only see somewhere between 200 to 500 votes cast for that one bill, because 100,000 votes cast is over 400 and something bills. So that's one of the reasons why we need millions of voters participating and voting consistently across bills, so that we get real scale in the number of votes on each individual bill, so that we take that to legislators and say, there's real people power behind this. Okay, so I mentioned accountability. Yeah, and then in terms of next year, we're thinking another 2 to 3 states level legislation that we would add. We talked a little bit about BillBot. That's kind of in beta testing right now. If you go to a single bill on our website and you pop up the chat tool and you say, tell me more about this bill, or how does this bill affect taxes, or how does this bill affect housing, or whatever, go ahead and test that out. I would actually love your feedback, because I've already incorporated BillBot into the website. I would like to make it faster, but right now I'm pretty pleased with at least the quality of the responses that it's giving, because what it does is, if you're on a specific bill page, let's say it's the one we were showing, HB 1205 on ballot petitions, citizens initiatives. So what it does when you ask it about the bill is it's going to go into our database and it's going to pull up everything that we have in the data about that bill. So it's going to read the whole bill text. It's going to look on open states for the current status of the bill, where it exists in the deliberative process. So whether it's been given a committee assignment, whether it's died in committee, whether it's gone to the full House, whether it's been signed by the governor, whatever. It's going to look for that. It's going to look for other external resources, because it has the ability to check the internet to find additional resources. So BillBot is actually quite powerful, and it's pulling in a lot of data to research a bill, but right now it's a little bit slow. So I'm going to try to tinker with things to speed it up, and I would love your feedback on that. Okay, and then displaying organizational and legislator stances on bills. We would love to get to the point where a legislator can upload a video testimonial, or a member of an organization that is supporting a bill or opposing a bill can upload a video testimonial. But for right now, what we've got is we do have a place on the website, so our team can put in to the website, here's a list of organizations that support this bill, here's a list of organizations that oppose this bill, and we get that from those organizations' websites. It's very manual right now. This will be another case where we would love to have your guys' inputs on, if you're associated with an organization and you can give us feedback on your organization's stance on a given bill, we can get that up on the website, so that people, when they're in the app, can see which groups support or oppose a bill. And we want to expand on this capability and try to automate it to the greatest degree possible. We may use additional AI tools to help us find organizations that have taken a public position on a bill and automatically pull those in. But, of course, then we need to quality control that to make sure we're not getting bad information. So we're still tinkering with that. Would love your thoughts and feedback on that as well. And then we're working with
Ramon,
votes.
before
Yes,
you
question.
continue, I know we're getting to the 8 o'clock hour, so we can stay on a couple minutes after too if anyone has questions. And then I just want to
Yeah.
make sure Ramon and I will drop our chat or our info in the chat. So yeah, if you
Oh,
can do
yes.
that.
We should also point out, Sadie, that we're going to invite everybody in this call to join our Slack. So we'll send a link. So anybody and I think actually our policy going forward is we're going to just allow anybody who's enrolled in the app to join our Slack and reach out to us and communicate with us. This is meant to be a grassroots organization, and we want people's inputs all the time. So we're trying to find as many ways as possible for you all to communicate with us. Tell us better ways to do what we're doing. Tell us what you like and don't like, how we can improve the overall experience, and what legislation you care about, those types of things. So we'll be sending out invites. So keep an eye on an invite from Slack to join the Digital Democracy Project Slack workspace. Okay.
And then, yeah, I don't know if you want to mention about updates in the app, but yeah, since we are at the 8 o'clock hour, I'll mention maybe while you're dropping in the chat. So we are also planning, if I can get this to cooperate, we have an event coming up. So the People's Legislative Forum will kind of go more into depth about the bills that we've covered and then give people on the call the chance to kind of discuss more, provide about their opinions, their stances. So yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and if you can scan the QR code and then sign up that way, and then I'll pull the link and drop that in the chat as well. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that we'll send out some info about that in a follow-up email too. And then yeah, Ramon, if you haven't already, dropped your info in the chat if you'd like.
Yes, I'm dropping it right now.
And then yeah, if you want to touch on about some updates like within the Votes app, I think that's the last thing if you wanted to cover that. I'm gonna
Yeah, so Nimit and his team are already looking to introduce a search feature into the app. This would allow you to search for a specific bill. We're also thinking it would, we'd try to make it so you could search by topic. So let's say you wanted to just look at all the environmental bills in the app and just vote on those, or all the tax bills, or all the, gun bills, or whatever. Whatever the topic. So we're trying to make it easier to find a specific bill, because right now we load it by date based on the legislative calendar. So we load bills kind of with an idea on what's hot, like what's upcoming, what do we need people to vote on, because it's going to be getting action in Congress. So we do that, but we want to make it, we want to introduce a search feature, because a lot of people have said, well, I really care about this particular bill, not necessarily all the other bills that Congress is debating. So Nimit and his fantastic team are moving forward on that kind of stuff. All right. Yeah, thank you to everybody who's joined. Really appreciate you all.
yeah, if
And I guess we
anyone's
will,
if you
hang
have
out
any
here.
questions, yeah, feel free to hop off mute or drop in the chat if you haven't already. And then Ramon, we could have, I didn't know if I should drop the link to directly join the Slack in there in the chat.
All right, let me see if I can do that. I think we'll send it out. I think we're going to send it out afterwards anyway, but let me see if I can copy the invite link. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll send the recording and yeah, the link to join the Slack in a follow-up email. But yeah, if you guys would like to, Ramon just dropped it in the Slack, or in the chat. So feel free if you'd like to join our Slack to stay in communication with our team too. And then yeah, if anyone has any bills that you'd like us to uplift or drop in the chat to get voters to weigh in on, the Slack's another good place to keep us up to date on things like that too, or feel free to shoot us an email. And yeah, if anyone has trouble getting on the app again, we want to get as many people as possible. So definitely we can help you out here. If you want to hang out too, we can help you get in there. Yeah, thank you guys all for joining. Feel feel free to reach out to us.
All right, I think everybody's probably dropping off. So unless there are any other questions, I think I'll go ahead and adjourn the call. Any last questions? Okay. Thank you guys. Appreciate all your time and thank you for supporting this project. It means a lot. This is by voters for voters. So your participation is the only way this works. So thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Nimit, for joining.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye.